Extraordinary.
Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. And Adonai Yahuwah said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. Let us make for him a help suitable to him." As seen in Genesis chapter 2, verses 18 and 22, Abba created a helpmeet, Eve, suitable for man, in which he used Adam's rib to create her. Shalom, shalom, Ishpaka. Peace, family, and welcome to another episode of Genesis chapter 3, verse 17. And to the woman he said, "I will greatly multiply thy pains and thy groanings, and pain thou shalt bring forth children, and thy submission shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee." Reality shows how our Creator calls woman to reproduce and give birth to children, while instructions to submit to thy husband, as he shall rule over thee, his wife. This biblical Shemitic chart displays Jacob, known as Israel, one man, 2 wives, and 2 concubines, collectively bring forth 12 tribes. Exodus chapter 21, verses 10 through 11. And if he take another to himself, he shall not deprive her of necessaries and her apparel and her companionship with him. And if he will not do these 3 things to her, she shall go free without money. Before modern day nations took worldly rulership, mankind had multiple wives and procreated to expand their families, whom they bore responsibility for. Not always according to laws of current society, but for, at minimum, food, clothing, and shelter. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 18. Thou shalt not take a wife in addition to her sister as a rival, to uncover her nakedness in opposition to her while she is yet living.
Sharing a boyfriend for us means we get to be together all the time. There's no jealousy in this relationship. Like if Ben kisses Anna, he'll kiss me straight after. That's just so strange.
Sirach chapter 26, verse 6. But a grief of heart and sorrow is a woman that is jealous over another woman, and a scourge of the tongue which communicates with all. This graphic scene is an example of an adulterous man caught in attempts to sex his friend's wife, and which is punishable by death. According to the jealousy offering in Numbers chapter 5, verses 11 through 28, Israelite men would bring their wives to a Levitical priest to see if she laid amongst other men. And if her belly swelled, she was guilty of adultery. Modern day reactions aren't too different than ancient times, except for leadership of original Levitical tribes. In other words, if a man was found guilty of lying amongst another man's wife, their punishment was Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 22. And if a man be found laying with a woman married to a man, ye shall kill them both, the man that lay with the woman and the woman, so shalt thou remove the wicked one out of Israel.
I know how to increase your cash flow.
Isaiah chapter 4, verse 1. And 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread and wear our own raiment, only let thy name be called upon us.
It's a sideline occupation for an ever-changing economy.
Leviticus chapter 15, verses 19 through 20. And the woman whosoever shall have an issue of blood, when her issue shall be in her body, shall be 7 days in her separation. Everyone that touches her shall be unclean until evening, and everything whereon she shall lie in her separation shall be unclean, and whatsoever she shall sit upon shall be unclean. While future prophecy shows men will continuously procreate amongst several wives who will want to bear their own responsibilities, women must experience a 7-day cycle separation period, which is essential for reproduction. 3 Kings chapter 11, verses 0 and 3. And King Solomon was a lover of woman, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And he took strange women, as well as the daughter of Pharaoh. So this became a downfall for Solomon, a man of great wisdom, to marry melanated women outside of the 12 tribes of Israel, who kept customs of their Elohim. He allowed his strange wives to convert him to customs of their Elohim, unlike his great uncle Joseph. Before we jump down to any verse, let's start at Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. And Yahuwah Elohim shall bring thee into the land into which thou goest to possess it, and shall remove great nations from before thee, the Hittite, and Girgashite, and Amorite, and Canaanite, and Perizzite, and Evite, and Jebusite, 7 nations more numerous and stronger than you. And Yahuwah Elohim shall deliver them into thy hands, then thou shalt smite them, thou shalt utterly destroy them. Thou shalt not make a covenant with them, neither shall ye pity them, neither shall ye contract marriages with them. Now let's talk about these 7 nations named in laws of our great creator of all. These historical photos we are about to see are ancient and modern day Afro-Canaanites, who are a melanated race to this day. See, Abba knew he wanted to abolish these 7 nations from off his land because they served other Elohim, inherited by his chosen ones to keep it righteous and pure in order to serve him until all 12 tribes were led away captives or forced to flee for overall disobedience. It was also recommended for true Israelites of Torah to marry within their own tribes, but as seen throughout history, our forefathers married melanated women from other nations, especially during their captivities, such as Joseph, when he married a Zenith, an Egyptian woman.
I am Canaanim in Israel. I go American, and I help with the people in black, and I
An American tourist documented her excursion to Israel, formerly known as Canaan, amongst a leftover population of Canaanites. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verses 10 through 14. And if, when thou goest out to war against thine enemies, Yahuwah Elohim should deliver them into thine hands, and thou shouldst take their spoil, and shouldst see among the spoil a woman beautiful in countenance, and shouldst desire her, and take her to thyself for a wife, and shouldst bring her within thine house, then shalt thou shave her head and pare her nails, and shalt take away her garments of captivity from off her, and she shall abide in thine house, and shall bewail her father and mother the days of a month. And afterwards thou shalt go into her and dwell with her, and she shall be thy wife.
We didn't read the genealogies thinking, well, ain't nothing interesting in there. Well, that's very interesting. Don't you realize that after Moses left the scene, that the man in charge of all 12 tribes was Joshua, the son of Nun, who came out of Ephraim, who was a result of an Egyptian and a Shemite, Joseph's son?
In other words, if Joseph's path was not manifested, there would be no exodus from Egypt. Genesis chapter 40 verses 43 through 45. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh. Without thee no one shall lift up his hand in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called the name of Joseph Samthamphanek, and he gave him a Zenith, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of Heliopolis, to wife. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Deuteronomy chapter 23 verses 7 through 8. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, because he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land.
In other words, as this chart shows, the more sexual partners they have, slowly but surely, the less likely they are to be able to have and maintain a stable marriage. Women who were virgins before they got married, which is here where it says 0, over 80% of these women were in stable marriages after 5 years. Now, when you go to women who've had over 20 sexual partners, you can see these women, 17% and 20% respectively here, for 16 to 20 sex partners, 21 plus, were in stable marriages. That's a very low percentage after 5 years. So this shows that the more women have sex with various men, the more they're unable to be in a stable marriage. There are various reasons for this, but this is called the ability to pair bond. When a woman has sex with various men, she loses her ability to bond and be attached and to become one, like the Bible says, the two become one flesh. She loses the ability to do that with one man. And so, again, in her mind, there's different reasons why she's leaving these men. But it's really because she's had sex with too many men. And so that's why, or one of the reasons why, the ancients understood the importance, the primacy of a woman being a virgin when she gets married. This is why I would teach my daughters, and including my sons, that one of the most important things for a wife to have when she gets married is her virginity, or at least a low body count. You see, a woman who has a promiscuous past is more likely to leave her husband and to commit adultery, because in her subconscious mind, she's already left the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50 other men that she's had sex with before him. So why not leave him when she feels bored or angry or in some way distraught or confused? Because that's her default response, is to go to another man, to leave the man and go to another when she doesn't feel good about the relationship anymore. And that will eventually happen, because no marriage is perfect and people's feelings change over time. On the other hand, the woman who was a virgin is far less likely to do that. She feels bonded to the man that took her virginity. She's not comparing the sex that she had with 10 other men to his sex. So she doesn't have these issues. She doesn't have demons or spirits that are attached to her because of her past sexual partners.
Exodus chapter 22, verses 16 through 18. And if anyone deceive a virgin that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her for a wife to himself. And if her father positively refuse and will not consent to give her to him for a wife, he shall surely pay compensation to her father according to the amount of the dowry of virgins.
I also want to point out that, as you can see on the screen here, 70% of divorces in the U.S. are initiated by women, which means that out of every 10 divorces, 7 times out of 10, it's the woman who is desiring and initiating it. And amongst women who have college degrees that are married, 90% of the time, they are the ones initiating their divorce. And a large part of the reason is because in this current feminist, mother goddess worshiping society that we live in, women are given way too many different options for them to do what they consider settling and staying with one man for their whole lives. They aren't encouraged to do that, to get married at a young age, be with their husband for their whole life. They aren't encouraged to do that. So Babylon teaches them something completely different. So that's why they don't find it important, or they don't prioritize marriage. And the college indoctrinated women divorce men at even higher rates than the other women, because their egos are generally even more inflated, because this society teaches them that college degrees make them somehow more valuable. So in other words, they are impressed with themselves and think that they are too good to stay in a marriage, especially if that man doesn't have a higher level college degree than she has. All of this is why the Bible actually doesn't permit women to divorce men at all. There's nowhere in the entire Bible where it says that women are allowed to divorce men.
Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 3 through 6. And if anyone should take a wife and should dwell with her, then it shall come to pass, if she should not have found favor before him, because he has found some unbecoming thing in her, that he shall write for her a bill of divorcement and give it into her hands, and he shall send her away out of his house. And if she should go away and be married to another man, and the last husband shall hate her, and write for her a bill of divorcement, and shall give it into her hands, and send her out of his house, and the last husband shall die who took her to himself for a wife, the former husband who sent her away shall not be able to return to her to himself for a wife, after she has been defiled, because it is an abomination before Yahuwah Eloheka, and ye shall not defile the land which Yahuwah Eloheka gives thee to inherit. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 12. And they that are left shall be more precious than gold tried in the fire, and a man shall be more precious than the stone that is in sulfur.
I just want to know, is he circumcised? Because if he's not circumcised, I'm sorry, but I'm not going anywhere near him.
Relax, Rachel. He's very circumcised, aren't you, Jack?
You know that I am, Sam.
Oh my. Excuse me, what's circumcised? Oh, baby, don't worry about it. I'll explain it to you later.
Okay,
Genesis chapter 17, verse 11. And ye shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be for a sign of a covenant between me and you.
It's more authentic. It has more of the original text. So I'm going to be reading from this book, as well as my sister. She's going to be reading from the Yasha Ahaya Scriptures. And I also have my Living Bible just to translate it in more of layman's terms, so it's easier to understand. But I love the fact that we get the authentic version first to give us the full truth. 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 Give us the full truth.
Of marriage.